Hello everyone. This is a tech demo for a project I'm currently working on. The idea is to have it as a tactics or a turn-based tactics game, sort of like Final Fantasy Tactics or XCOM Enemy Unknown. The main difference would be that instead of taking place within a pre-established area, this would be using a large field zone, sort of like a large plain or a forest or something, and when a player engages an enemy, a smaller area would be designated for combat. So in this way, you could sort of try and bait enemies into a more favorable position, or you could also set up your team in a formation beforehand to sort of flank them right at the start, or something to that effect. So right now, you can see sort of this is what field zone exploration would look like. The model's not rotated correctly, but that's a very minor bug right now. As you can see, the camera is not your typical just follows the character around kind of setup. It does have a little bit of drift to it. So like when the player moves towards the camera, it will zoom in a bit more towards them. When they move away from it, it zooms out a tiny bit. This is all fully controllable. Likewise, side-to-side movement isn't clamped onto the player. They do have a degree of wiggle room. And as you can see, when you stop, it tries to sort of return to this ideal position. So this is field exploration. As you can see here, you have these guys standing around. These are your quote-unquote party members. Right now, you can actually place them around. So there's the marker for it. And there's one, there's two, there's three. Currently, there aren't any restrictions set up on it. That's going to be done later on. So let's go ahead and touch this cube, which is my placeholder for an enemy, and we'll start combat. So as you can see, it snaps right to one different character. It's actually not set up right now to accept like a list formation based on the different character's speed. It just sort of generates all randomly. So with this guy, let's do a movement action. So this large circle denotes what the movement radius is. It's actually set up right now so that it scales based on how many movement actions a player has in a turn. Right now, the characters all have 2 actions. They can either be 2 movements or 1 movement and an attack in any combination. As well, you can revert things very easily. So like there, it's just been returned to its original position. So let's move this guy over to here. And as you can see, he's having some trouble moving past this point, even though it should be within the area. That's because I haven't set up the bounds for the arena to be displayed yet, but they are definitely there. So I'll just put this guy here. With this one, we'll do an attack action. Let's do a ranged attack. So anyone within his range can be targeted, whether they're an enemy or a party member. So you can see there, camera still needs some work on this one. As well, anything within that red area can be affected by the attack. Just right now, party member healths aren't displayed. They are accounted for though. So we'll do that. And there, the enemy's health has gone down a bit. And if we go to move, you can see that his movement radius is much smaller. And that's because he only has 1 movement action left. With this guy, we'll do a different form of attack. Actually, I'll move him out of the way first. So as you can see, there was a smaller movement, and it only cost 1 action to use. So with this one, we'll do a fire attack. I say fire, but that's just for flavor. So this is a placed action. The radius is actually using a data table for this, which I'll show later. But anything within this placed attack will take damage. So we'll go ahead and put that there. You can actually see he's taken about 5 points of damage. So with this last one, this is just a generic attack. What this would be with, this would actually change based on like what the character's class is, quote unquote class. So with this guy, he would be more of a melee character, so he can only attack anything within his personal bubble. But someone who's an archer or something would be able to attack with a larger range, using the same sort of distance as the ranged attack. It's actually set up so that this is the basic action and it is dependent on the character's self-defined reach. So we'll go ahead and you can see it doesn't cycle to any other targets. It just has this one. So yeah, there's how it currently is set up. And here's just an example of you can undo movement. You can fully traverse the menus. If I want to go into fire, I can go all the way back to the main one. And I'll just open up the data table to show off how that looks. So you have the action name, which in this case just attack, fire, range. The potency, I'm using potency just as a baseline for allowing modification based on stats. So this is the flat strength of the attack, but then that would be modified based on what the player's magic stat is or something. The action type, this is a numerator, so you have target, placement, and special. Special is just for unique cases, like this is an action that will affect everyone within the arena, or it will affect all party members. Target is, it relies on a specific target, so it's positioned over someone, or it is just attacking one specific person. And placement is self-explanatory, it's just placed on the map somewhere by the player or the enemy. So the angle is just, it denotes the degree, like the angle of effect. So an attack with an angle of 0 that's within the player's reach, that would just be, it attacks one person. But if it were to use, well, in this case, one being what I'm currently using to denote a 90-degree angle, it would basically say, okay, everything within this 90-degree area with this reach from the player will be affected by the attack. Or if it's 4, then that's a 360-degree angle, so everything around the player will be affected, and so on. So it just allows for things like wider area of effect without being just a circle. The range is how much of a range in meters the action has. I'm using meters just because it's nicer, it's easier to keep track of than denoting it in the actual, well, centimeters is what Unreal 4 uses, so 10 meters looks a lot easier to read than 1,000 centimeters. And 255 is just because, well, that's what -1 will default to in this case, so that just denotes use the character's reach. As well, 255 meters is not going to be, it's going to be significantly bigger than the actual arenas. And then the radius is the actual, like, so in this case, if you're using the angle, how far will that go out to? So if you're doing an attack with an angle of 90 and a radius of 5, then it will extend out to 5 meters, but then have an angle of 9 degrees from the player. Likewise, this is used for circular spells, so like with this fire action, it's a placement, it's just going to be a direct like area of effect, and so that will use a radius of 5 for its attacks. And yeah, so that's everything I have so far with a few clunky explanations. Hopefully I'll have more for you all soon. Cheers!